Hello and welcome to this video. If you are here, if you are watching this, congratulations. You have upgraded. You're in 2021, which can only be an upgrade from 2020. But this video is going to be looking back on 2020 and going through the stats for my reading year. So this year I am continuing the same kind of system I used last year with a couple of additions, I think. But basically in 2020 I used a system called Corpile, which is created by G from Book Roast, and Corpile basically stands for the different things that you will rate a book for. So you've got C being character, A being atmosphere, W being writing, P being plot, I being intrigue, L being logic, and E being enjoyment. Really pleased with myself for remembering that. And basically you give each out of 10 a rating, and then at the end of that, Corpile generates the number of stars, or out of 5, what you would be giving that book. So I've been using that all year. This is the first year I've used it, and oh my god, brilliant. Makes reviewing books so much better because you're breaking it down a lot more, but also coming up with a star rating feels a lot more logical. A lot of the time before this I would just kind of know in my head, oh, that's definitely a 4-star read or a 5-star read, but actually this makes you think about why you're actually reviewing something like that. And also the perks of it is it completely breaks everything down into categories. It's a spreadsheet, so we've got different stats, different figures. For example, how many books that I have read that have been published in certain years, how many pages I read each month, how many books I read each month. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to break that down, have a look at a couple of stats, but this is just a little summary of my 2020 reading in stats. So to start with, in 2020 I read 102 books, which is the most books I have ever read in 1 year. I completely credit that to lockdown and being stuck inside and not really having an escape other than reading. When I would normally be going out at the weekends and socialising in the evenings, I have not been doing that, so I have been reading. I've also moved out I keep wanting to say this year, I've also moved out in 2020, so I have been in my own space, therefore my time has been entirely my own, and again, that has made me do a lot more reading. So, how many books did I read in each month, you ask? I've got all my stats up here, so if I look down here, that's because that's where my laptop is. But in each month, I seem to read in between 6 to 12 books. The lowest reading month I had was July, when I only read 6 books, which is funny because I had a whole week off in July because it was my birthday. My July is usually really busy because it's always my birthday in July. Obviously that's always going to be on the same day. And then it's always Yauk in July. Last year we didn't have Yauk, which was really sad because of the coronavirus, it was cancelled. So I don't know why I only read 6 books, because really it should have been higher, but maybe they were bigger, chunkier books. But my best reading month by far was May, where I read 12 books. I don't know how I did that, and we're gonna have a look at that in a minute, but 12 books in May is huge. As for the rest of the months within the year, there are a couple of months, April, November and December, where I read 10 books, but then all the others seem to vary between 7 to 9, which is about average for me. I would say I tend to read 1 to 2 books a week, depending on the book. Obviously graphic novels I can get through a lot quicker, which possibly might account to why I would read 10 to 12 books some months and not other months. Now it makes sense that May would also be the highest page count for me. So in May I read 5,062 pages, whereas in July I read 1,583 pages. So it really wasn't quite as many, but it's so interesting to be able to look at this because, for example, in November and December, I read 10 books in both. But in December, I read nearly 600 more pages, so the books I was reading were bigger. Whereas in February, for example, I read more books than in January, but less pages. So don't be hard on yourself if you're someone that sees people reading loads and loads of books, because if you're reading longer books, then essentially you're reading the same amount anyway, but also it's not a competition, it's all for fun, we read because we enjoy it, so generally this should all be taken with a pinch of salt. I just find it fun to look at these stats. So I can also see on Corpile the breakdown of how many books I gave each star rating, and I am really pleased to say that 44% of the books I read got 4 stars. That was my most common rating across the board, which makes sense for me because, as I've said before, if I'm not enjoying a book, I'll just put it down. I'm not necessarily DNFing if I might go back to it, but generally if I'm not enjoying it and I know I'm not going to go back to it, I will DNF a book. So I won't rate that, I won't review it. I don't think, for me, I don't want to review a book or rate a book that I haven't actually finished. So this does not account for any books I've DNF'd, which is why we've got really high ratings. Although I see there is a couple lower ratings as well. So 44% being 4-star. Does it tell me how many that is? 45 books I rated 4-star. 24% were 5 stars, which equates to 25 books. I did rate one book 1 star. Intriguing. We're gonna have to go and check what that is. This is in no numerical order, is it? I rated 3 books 2 stars, and I rated 27 books 3 stars. So basically, most popular 4 stars, then 3 stars, then 5 stars, 2 stars, 1 stars. Interesting. I'm excited to go and have a look at what I rated a 1 star, because there's only one book I can think of that I really didn't get on with, so watch this gap, we'll see. I don't find the years of published quite as interesting, because I know I'm always going to read more books published in the year that it's just been, because I am just a slave to new books coming out. But it's no surprise to me then that I've read 42 books that were published in 2020, and quite a lot that were published in 2018. I read 10 books published in 2018. The oldest book that I read was published in 1954, which I'm gonna guess is a Tolkien book, because I was reading a lot of his work. And I can't really see much older. Oh no, 1949, sorry, I've got one from 1949 as well. There's quite a few in here that are smaller that I can't necessarily read. 1937, one from there as well. These are all Tolkien. And then there's various different ones from 2019 as well. So my top most popular years were 2020, 2018 and 2019. I don't know why I'm saying these in awful chronological order. On to genres. So the top genre I read, coming in at 45 books within that genre, was fantasy. That's absolutely no surprise to me at all, because I know I read majority fantasy. However, for me, I want to read more thriller mystery books. That is hopefully on the come up for me. And I'm surprised by the amount I did read of that genre, because it's not as much I would have thought. I'm going to group thriller and mystery together, because I do think that they have parallels together, and I often struggle as to put something in thriller or mystery. I never quite know. So thriller and mystery together, I have got 14 books in those categories. For 45 fantasy and 14 thriller and mystery, that is surprising. 17 contemporary, which also surprises me, because I don't often reach for contemporary unless I'm really fancying it. I didn't realise how many contemporary. Somehow read 4 historical fiction. I don't know how I did that. 5 poetry books. I read a short story. When did I do that? Is that what I would have put a novella under? I don't know. Science fiction, I've read 4. Now, I don't read sci-fi very often either. I really don't like sci-fi, so I'm intrigued which ones those ones are. And I read 4 graphic novels as well. Oh, and 2 classics. I'm not very good at reading classics. I should probably get a bit better at that. And then finally, for the last 2 breakdowns in this kind of category area, we've got the age and format. So I have read 45% of the books I've read, which comes in at 46 books, adult. And then there's 44 young adult, which is 43%. The rest are children's or middle grade, which is a lot lower in the numbers, like 5 of each. So I think the reason for this is probably because I am slowly tailoring more towards adult fiction as I get older. I don't think there is an age category on what you read. I am never going to be bothered by the fact that something's targeted at a different age to what I am. However, personally, I can empathise with the characters more in adult fiction. Not to say that I can't within YA, and I still definitely love YA, but I'm certainly noticing more recently my tastes shifting a little bit to be preferring more of the adult fiction. And finally, for this section, I have got the breakdown of the format of books I read. So I got a new Kindle last year. I keep wanting to say this year still. And I think that that helped me read more ebooks than I would normally. So I read 7 ebooks, which for me is fairly decent because I just much prefer physical books. I read 13 audiobooks, which is way less than I thought. And I read 82 physical books, which makes about sense. Okay, I found the book that I rated 1 star. Yeah, I remember this now. Okay. I rated The Night Country 1 star by Melissa Albert. This was the sequel to The Hazelwood. I loved The Hazelwood. It's a fantasy, YA fantasy. Really enjoyed The Hazelwood, was very excited for The Night Country, and it did not live up to expectations at all. I was really, really disappointed, and I think I finished it in the hope that it would get better. I would probably DNF'd it if it wasn't for enjoying the first one quite so much, but honestly, thoroughly disappointing, and that clearly reflects in my review. The book I thought I was going to have reviewed as a 1-star was The Sign of 4, which is a Sherlock Holmes novel. I gave that one 2 stars. That was the first of the Sherlock Holmes books I've ever read, and I just found it was completely different to what I expected. I just thought it would be much more upbeat, fast-paced, I would be involved in the mystery, and I didn't get that at all. So that one was 2 stars. I think those are some of my lowest rated books. But let's pick up the positivity and have a look at some of the books that I rated 5 stars. So I have made a video that is talking about the top books that helped me survive 2020, but these books are all the ones that I have put as 5 stars. It's not every single 5-star read because there's a lot of them. I've just pulled off a couple that I wanted to quickly go through. So the first 5-star book I rated, which surprises me because I thought I would have rated The Unlikely Escape of Uriah Heep 5 stars. Apparently that came out as 4 stars. But the first one was One of Us Is Next by Karen M. McManus. This is the sequel to One of Us Is Lying, and it's the kind of situation where the sequel is better than the first one. Okay, sorry, a car alarm was going off and I didn't know if it was mine. It was not. Anyway, yes, this is one of the examples where the sequel for me was better than the first book. I really enjoyed this one. It's a YA thriller, so starting me off strong with rating a 5-star thriller read. And I have since gone on to read every other single book of Karen M. McManus's because I think this was my second one that I've read of hers. And now she's got 4 out and I have read them all. So I think this is a worthy 5-star read. I didn't realise I rated this one 5 stars, but there you go. The next book I rated 5 stars is one that I've forgotten to really talk about since reading it, which is a shame because it was beautiful, so I probably should talk about this one more. This is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, and this is a illustrated book that helps you through tough times. And I think, when did I read that one? What month? February. So we were just about to enter into the terror of coronavirus really hammering down on us. So I don't think I realised the impact this one would have had. I think maybe if I'd have read this one a couple of months in as well to the lockdown, it would have hit in a very different way. But for me, it still felt poignant and I still really enjoyed it. And I think it's a really lovely story. The illustrations are absolutely stunning. I just love this kind of thing. I've just also noticed that I've tabbed a couple of pages, so maybe they were particularly insightful pages. So the one I've tabbed says, "What's your best discovery?" asked the mole. "That I'm enough as I am," said the boy. I've also tabbed this page as well. "What do we do when our hearts hurt?" asked the boy. "We strap them with friendship, shared tears and time till they wake hopeful and happy again." So this is a beautiful book that I kind of forgot about until now, which is silly because I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to go into detail about this next one because you guys are probably really sick of it, but it's no surprise that one of the other books I rated 5 out of 5 stars was House of Earth and Blood, which I finished, I think, in March, maybe? Yeah, it was the first book I finished in March, but I definitely know I started it in February because I started it on my mum's birthday when we were at a spa day. I want to reread this one. It was fantastic, and this is my favourite book of the year. The Favourite Book of the Year award. Woo! I also absolutely raved about this one when I was reading it, The Black Flamingo. This one got 5 out of 5 stars from me as well. This is by Dean Atter, and it's told in prose, so I think this one might count within the poetry category when I was reading out the genres category section that I was going through earlier, because this one is just beautifully done on the inside, and I really loved it. And I think this is possibly one I would reread again in the future. And I think if you like this kind of format, read this book because it's really, really good. I'm not giving you descriptions of all these books because I'm just showing you them as like this is what were my 5-star reads, because this is a stats video, not a book recommendations video. Of course, I absolutely loved Good Girl, Bad Blood and gave that 5 out of 5 stars. This was the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. It's a YA thriller. Again, I really like YA thrillers, apparently. I think Holly Jackson's books are the staple of YA thrillers for me, and they're just really good. And again, another example of the sequel living up to the first one. I think I preferred the first one, but this one was still really, really good. I discovered the Fallen Kingdom series this year, which has just been amazing. I'm 3 books in out of 6, purely because I just don't want to rush through them all and finish them, because it's such an epic, amazing, magic story that I just love it. So I read the first 3 in 2020. I hope to read the last 3 in 2021, but this one kicked it off and made me obsessed and basically just made me talk about it non-stop until I've made several other people read it too. So this, honestly, just brilliant. This is thanks to Lauren from Fiction Tea, who pretty much, I think, bought me every single one of the books in the series bar 1, I think. So thank you, Lauren, for getting me into this series. Another one I rated 5 stars is another prose book. So again, I think this one would have counted towards the poetry section. I really like books that are told in prose. This is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, which I just remember reading in pretty much one sitting as we were going between spring to summer, and it was just about warm enough to sit outside under a blanket. And I remember sitting and reading this and just devouring it because it was so addictive to read. So it's no surprise, again, it got 5 stars. Generally, I find the books that capture me are the ones that get 5 stars, like the ones that I cannot put down for whatever reason. So I often find that books that are told in prose do gain 5-star ratings because of how addictive they are to read. I feel like I'm dismissing some of these by not reading them out, but they're still absolutely fantastic. So the ones that I've not got next to me necessarily to show you that I've rated 5 stars as well are All Boys Aren't Blue, which I don't actually have a copy of, but that was fantastic. That was a memoir. Brilliant. Nimona, which I have got up on my shelves somewhere. The Tea Dragon Festival, Rebel Spring, which is the second in the Fallen Kingdom series. And then we've got another one that I do have next to me, which is Catherine House, which was just brilliant. This is by Elizabeth Thomas, and it was a mind-bending, weird journey that I felt obsessed with. I think this one would be perfect for anyone that is looking for something a bit darker in the autumn time or just at any point. But I absolutely adored this one, and I think this needs more hype because I see people owning it or vaguely mentioning it in photos or videos, but I haven't seen as many people that have actually read it. So if anyone has read this, let me know in the comments. I read The Midnight Library straight after Catherine House, and they are completely different, but this one was another 5-star read for me for the year. This is by Matt Haig, who is somebody that writes so openly and honestly about mental health and completely strips the taboo from it in his fiction and in his non-fiction, and I just think he's absolutely brilliant, and I adore what he writes, and this is a journey, and it was brilliant. And honestly, 5 stars is completely true to this because of how much this book can do for somebody. If you are someone that struggles with your mental health, and that is something that I have definitely had within my life as well, then there is something in this book that you will see and recognise, because this offers so many doors of hope and so many things to look at. I could talk about this book for a while, but honestly, really good. It's no surprise that a Victoria Schwab book made it onto the 5-star list. This is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Came out in 2020, was hugely anticipated. I've seen several people dislike it. Honestly, I really liked it. I loved Henry. He is fantastic. I loved the bookshop that he runs. I loved Addie. I loved her history. I loved Luke. And I just thought the whole thing was just really good. It felt different, and I liked that, and I think it gave me an unexpected story that I really enjoyed following along with. Honorary mention again to the books that I couldn't be bothered to pick off my shelves: Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore, which I loved. One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, also loved. Tilly and the Map of Stories. And then I went throughout from the end of October to the end of December without reading a single 5-star book. I did read a lot of 4-star books, but then the last book I read of the year came in at 5 stars, and that is One by One by Ruth Ware. It's an adult thriller, and I bloody loved it. It had me on the edge of my seat, and I couldn't get enough of it. I read it within 2 days, didn't expect it to come into the end of year. I thought this would probably be the first book I finished of this year, but it squeezed in there, and it reigned in the year with a 5 out of 5-star read. So yeah, brilliant. It's been a bloody brilliant year for books. It's been a rubbish year for a lot of other things, but I'm going to take solace in the fact that I read so many stories and was able to support authors and was able to tell you guys about the books and hopefully see you guys enjoy them too. I absolutely love it when someone says they read a book because I enjoyed it. Also, if I didn't enjoy a book, I don't want anyone to think that that means they wouldn't enjoy a book, because we all like completely different things. I often find the really hyped books I don't enjoy as much, and the ones that completely no one's talking about I seem to really like. So please don't listen to me and not read a book, but also, if I loved a book, I love it when you guys tell me that you've read that because I loved it, so yay. That's my stats for 2020. 2021 is going to be great. I set my reading goal at 60. I set it at 50 last year, so I'm going up by 10 it seems. I hope that we won't be in the same situation that we have been in 2020 for the whole of 2021. So maybe I won't read as many books as I did last year, because hopefully there will be more things I'm just doing, and that'll be great. But who knows? I mean, I'm just going to manifest that it's going to be a great year. Thank you for joining me for my stats. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. Comment below some of your stats for the year. I love hearing about this kind of thing. And you can subscribe to see more of my face on your feed. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep smiling, stay positive, and have a great 2021.